Arizona, unfortunately, has had a front row seat to the opioid crisis and the wave of fentanyl pouring into the country. It's a sobering situation as law enforcement says the southern border is the gateway.
But last year, Governor Ducey signed a bill legalizing fentanyl testing strips that can detect synthetic opioids in drugs. Fox 10 investigator Justin Lum shows us how the distribution is finally underway.
The Department of Health Services tells me a $100,000 federal opioids grant was key to delivering fentanyl test strips to several participating counties. Before legalization, test strips were considered drug paraphernalia, but the purpose is to be an overdose prevention tool, a lifesaver for those who are using.
My name is Nick Baker, and on September 2nd of 2017, I overdosed on fentanyl. When I get to the hospital, they tell my parents, we can't keep his heart going. We don't know what he took, and you should get his affairs and orders in order, and he doesn't look good.
Nick Baker knows he used heroin laced with fentanyl. A former football player who says he relied on painkillers, fell into drug and alcohol addiction.
I had met my match and I had been defeated, but I was so detached from reality at that point that the only thing I knew how to do was to try to run away from this emotion and feeling as quickly as I could. And so 24 hours after being released from the hospital, I was back to getting high.
After waking up from a week-long coma, Nick started an up and down months-long journey to sobriety, moving from Massachusetts to Arizona, where his life changed and he ultimately got clean.
I stopped searching out that as my solution, drugs, alcohol, when I found true purpose for my pain.
How effective is fentanyl? 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine. Illegally manufactured fentanyl falls under the category of synthetic opioids. The DEA says 2 milligrams is considered a lethal dose, depending on one's body size and tolerance. Between 2020 to 2021, synthetic opioid overdose deaths in the U.S. increased 23%, reaching more than 70,000. Here in Arizona, synthetic opioid overdose deaths rose from just over 1,500 to nearly 1,800, but 65% of the deaths happened in Maricopa County over those 2 years.
So this year, we're already at over 1,200 pounds of fentanyl seized.
Sergeant Jesus Castellum with Arizona DPS tells me the 1,200 plus pounds of fentanyl seized by troopers through September has surpassed the 2021 total already. Last year's amount, 830 pounds. Constant traffic stops lead to mounds of fentanyl pills hidden in bags, suitcases, or behind car parts.
The larger quantities, we notice them either on the I-10 in the Tucson area or the Casa Grande area or the area in between there.
Castellum says the drugs are mainly being trafficked across the border from Mexico, and Arizona is not the only destination.
They're headed all over the place. They can be headed here from the border to Phoenix, or they could be headed from here to Colorado or to Chicago, anywhere.
DPS is seizing more fentanyl than ever, despite the department's sworn personnel short by more than 300, its largest shortage since 2018.
People that are going out doing recreational cocaine on the weekends or buying that Xanax or buying that one Percocet, a simple swab can show you that, hey, you know what, if you're completely naive to opiates, that this is going to stop your heart and kill you.
Nick now volunteers with the Heiress Foundation, a nonprofit organization helping the homeless. The work starts in this warehouse, and on Tuesday nights, his team will pass out clothes, toiletries, and other resources. But Nick is also trying to keep unsheltered people alive, passing out Narcan and fentanyl test strips. While Narcan reverses an opioid overdose, fentanyl test strips focus on fentanyl and can detect contamination in the substance so one doesn't accidentally take it.
You pop the top, you drop it on here, and this will tell you if it's positive or negative for fentanyl.
Nick has been working with the state's Department of Health Services to get batches of fentanyl test strips consistently.
If we don't utilize those resources, then the problem's only going to get worse.
The T is the actual test. A line being there most of the time means negative on almost every test I've seen. A line being absent means positive.
At Sonic Test Labs, we're shown how the fentanyl test strip works. In just minutes, we determine this sample of oxycodone is fentanyl-free, and the lab manager tells me testing for fentanyl is something many employers are requesting these days, a prevalent issue in an ongoing crisis. Nick continues to request more fentanyl test strips and Narcan to keep those battling addiction alive so he can make a life-changing connection.
Is how do we get more people to just have a conversation? Really simple, right? Just a conversation.
So far, the state has distributed FTS to 6 counties: Pima, Coconino, Mojave, Cochise, Navajo, and Yavapai. Maricopa County Public Health is currently working with CDC funding to make the test strips widely available in this area. I'm Justin Lump for Fox 10 Investigates.